Nerves flying high this Monday night with Air Transat pilots set to walk off the job in days.
If I don't say I'm not worried, that's a lie.
How the negotiations are going and how much money the airline could lose if a strike happens. Another tariff threat, why the U.S. president is now targeting Canadian potash. Paramount says, forget Netflix, the hostile bid to take over Warner Brothers. Plus, putting the Golden in Golden Globe nominations.
My first reaction was just pride.
How K-pop Demon Hunters and its Canadian creator are taking the world by storm.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Air Transat says flights are operating as planned, even as a strike deadline looms just ahead of the busy holiday season. The airline said on Sunday it would begin grounding flights to prepare for a possible strike after the pilots' union issued a 72-hour strike notice. Now it says progress has been made in negotiations and that the gap between both sides is narrowing by the minute. Mike Armstrong has our top story on where this leaves Air Transat passengers.
It may be that no news is good news for now. Air Transat over the weekend said it would start canceling flights Monday. That didn't happen. It held off. In its latest statement, the airline says, quote, negotiations continued through the night and we have made progress. Discussions are ongoing. Welcome news to passengers caught in the middle. Flying out, unsure if the airline will fly them back.
If I don't say I'm not worried, that's a lie.
Yeah, so I'm a little scared we won't be able to fly back.
It's out of my control. It would just not something I want to deal with while I'm there, how to figure out how to get back, especially with two kids.
The pilots' last collective agreement expired in April, but it was signed back in 2015. The pilots' union says it wants improvements to things like pensions and working conditions, and that salaries haven't kept up with the rest of the industry. Aviation industry expert Geraint Harvey.
But I think the key part with this, with Air Transat, is it's been a decade since the negotiation happened last, and the world is a very different place.
Now, there has been some public negotiating. Air Transat said Sunday it's put on the table a 59% salary increase over 5 years. The pilots' union says that isn't actually what was offered. But it is the pilots that arguably hold most of the power in this conflict. The airplanes don't take off if they don't turn the key. That said, it doesn't necessarily mean the airline will or can give them what they want. Air Transat lost $114 million last year and is heavily in debt. A strike would hurt. There are estimates the airline could lose $7 to $9 million a day, and add to that extra expenses to get stranded passengers home. For the company, this battle may be over salaries and survival. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
The possibility of a pipeline from Alberta to BC's coast is going to a vote in Parliament tomorrow. It's a tactic by the federal Conservatives to try to force Liberal MPs to declare whether they really support the construction of one or more pipelines to BC's coast, lifting the oil tanker ban and respecting the duty to consult Indigenous people. The vote is non-binding, meaning it really is just political theatre, but as Mackenzie Gray explains, it could be revealing.
Let's build a pipeline.
Most Conservatives aren't hiding their position, leading Pierre Poilievre to try and put the squeeze on the Liberals to show their hand.
Will, in the spirit of Christmas, Liberals admit they were wrong, vote for their own wording, approve a pipeline, and get rid of the tanker ban.
On Tuesday, a Conservative motion will ask MPs if they support the construction of one or more pipelines to a port on the British Columbia coast and an appropriate adjustment to the northern BC coast oil tanker ban. Words ripped right from the Ottawa-Alberta pipeline agreement. A political conundrum one Liberal MP recognizes.
If it's a yes vote, it might look like we don't take seriously our requirement to consult with BC and First Nations. And if it's a no vote, it might look like we're not serious about the pipeline.
While the vote is non-binding and can't bring the government down, cabinet ministers were tight-lipped on what the Liberals will do.
Mr. Champagne, how are you going to vote on the Conservative pipeline motion tomorrow?
I don't have the exact count, but we'll certainly be in the House here to fight for Canadians.
The Natural Resources Minister contending the motion misses key environmental portions of the agreement, like an increased industrial carbon tax.
The Premier of Alberta supports the entire MOU. The Premier of Saskatchewan supports the entire MOU.
But that support isn't shared by all of the Liberal caucus. Former Culture Minister Stephen Guilbeault quit cabinet over the agreement, and many other Quebec and BC MPs are uneasy.
Can I ask how you're going to vote on the pipeline motion tomorrow?
Hard to know. Although some BC Liberals do support a pipeline.
We've got to support that because it creates opportunities for Albertans, British Columbians, Indigenous peoples, and also for Canadians.
The Prime Minister has said support from BC and affected First Nations is required for a pipeline to be built, Donna. But so far, no private company has come forward saying they even want to build one. And the most optimistic projections from the Alberta government is construction wouldn't start until 2029.
Okay, Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa, thank you. The U.S. president is again raising the specter of punishing tariffs on Canada, this time targeting the potash industry. Donald Trump says he might impose very severe tariffs on imports of potash used to make fertilizer, claiming the U.S. can mine its own. Right now, the U.S. relies on Canadian potash, most of which comes from Saskatchewan. Jillian Piper reports on Trump's latest threat and the reaction.
A new U.S. tariff threat, this time focusing on Canadian fertilizer.
A lot of it does come in from Canada, and so we'll end up putting very severe tariffs on that if we have to, because that's the way you want to bolster here, and we can do it here.
While Trump provided no specifics on what that severe tariff could look like, it would seriously impact U.S. farmers. Currently, over 95% of potash, a key ingredient in industrial fertilizer, is imported into the U.S. 90% of that comes from Canada.
And they start charging and sending in, very high prices from other countries, whether it's Canada or somebody else. We're not going to let that happen.
The latest threat comes days after the president spoke and danced with Prime Minister Mark Carney at the World Cup draw in Washington.
It's the first time I haven't danced at YMCA.
But that jovial mood hasn't paid off. Outside of potential potash tariffs, Trump doesn't seem interested in restarting trade talks with Canada that he himself called off in October.
Will you restart that? Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the problem is Canada makes a lot of things that we don't need because we make them also.
But Trump seemingly recognized that the U.S. could not make enough fertilizer domestically in November, when he previously exempted Canadian potash from all U.S. duties, with China, Russia, and Belarus the only other major potash producers in the world.
When I go, or the Minister of International Trade or Minister of Finance goes and meets with any country in the world, with one exception, any country, they want to do more business with Canada.
Canada's agriculture sector is already being hammered by China, with a 100% duty on canola and a 25% levy on pork, Donna. But a fertilizer tariff would likely be different, since the Americans are so reliant on buying Canadian potash.
Jillian Piper in Ottawa, thank you. Police in Ontario say they have dismantled what they describe as a criminal network responsible for a host of violent crimes across parts of Ontario and Quebec. 13 people have been arrested. Together, they are facing more than 150 charges.
These offences run the gamut of violent crime: shootings and carjackings in busy public places, armed robberies at jewelry and cell phone stores, home invasion robberies that resulted in shootings and murder. These acts were brazen. They were brutal.
The investigation, dubbed Project Wrangler, began in the spring after a series of violent attacks in southern and eastern Ontario and in Quebec. Police say they are still looking for 2 more suspects. Toronto police are investigating a possible hate crime after Jewish prayer scrolls were stolen from the doorways of homes in a supportive housing building for seniors. They're called mezuzahs, small prayer scrolls affixed to the doorpost of Jewish households as an expression of faith and identity. Police received multiple reports that about 20 of them were torn off the doorways overnight between Saturday and Sunday. Police are asking anyone with information about the thefts to come forward.
Jews, I wouldn't say we're scared, but we'll say that, we're a resilient people. We're going to keep fighting back. That's why we're here today, to, let them know that they're secure and they have a community around them.
Local Jewish community members and advocates have put up replacement mezuzahs for residents who have lost theirs. Since the start of his second term in the Oval Office, President Trump has fired the heads of multiple independent federal agencies, despite protections designed to constrain presidential powers. Now, one of those cases is before America's highest court. As Heidi Petrachik explains, the case has broad implications as the president continues to push to expand his powers.
Inside the U.S. Supreme Court, lawyers argued each side of a case that not only pits the American president against a former member of the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, but is about so much more.
President Trump is, pushing this as with many issues, kind of to the limits here.
In March, U.S. President Donald Trump fired Democratic Commissioner Rebecca Slaughter from the FTC, claiming she wasn't aligned with his priorities.
We have to fight it all the way to the Supreme Court. We certainly will.
A district court judge ruled the dismissal illegal, bringing the matter here.
This really goes to the heart of whether Congress can create agencies that can operate at least somewhat independently from the president.
This case hinges on a Supreme Court precedent that dates back 90 years, a ruling that shields the heads of independent agencies from removal without good cause. Monday, the U.S. Solicitor General argued that limitation shouldn't apply.
We don't believe there are permissible restrictions on principal officers of the United States who exercise the executive power.
While a lawyer representing Slaughter argued it's a line that shouldn't be crossed.
If petitioners get their way, everything is on the chopping block.
Which means this could have implications for other agencies, including the Federal Reserve Board. Constitutional experts and observers anticipate the Supreme Court's conservative majority could rule in Trump's favor.
And a major issue will be exactly how they write that opinion and how broad the implications are for other agencies of the decision in this case.
The Supreme Court is expected to rule next year, and we'll also hear arguments next month on Trump's attempt to remove Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, a move that has no precedent. Heidi Petrachik, Global News, Washington.
A powerful earthquake has hit off the northern coast of Japan. The 7.6 magnitude quake was centered about 80 kilometers off the coast of Hokkaido. The quake struck at 11:15 p.m. local time, and there are no reports of any severe injuries or major damage. A tsunami warning was issued for much of the country's eastern coastline, but the waves that rolled in ended up being less than a meter high. Hostile takeover attempt coming up. The Billions Paramount Skydance is offering as it challenges Netflix in the fight to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. Thousands of people are fleeing the area around the border between Thailand and Cambodia as the two countries launch artillery and airstrikes. At least 5 people have been killed in the fighting. Both sides have accused the other of starting this latest round of violence, the most serious confrontation since the neighbors agreed to a ceasefire in July in a deal brokered by the U.S. President Donald Trump. Thailand and Cambodia have been contesting territorial sovereignty along their land border for more than a century. Ukraine's president has confirmed reports that unidentified drones were spotted near the flight path of his plane during a trip to Ireland last week. He says it will be investigated. Today, Volodymyr Zelensky was in London meeting with the leaders of Britain, France, and Germany, standing firm on his position that Ukraine will not make any territorial concessions to Russia. Redmond Shannon reports.
The remaining part of Donetsk region that Russian President Vladimir Putin says he will take through negotiations or by force. Still controlled by Ukraine, but only just. Yuri is among those who remain. He says he stayed because he can't afford to leave.
Will you give up any territory to Russia?
At the other side of Europe, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky met with his most powerful European allies following 3 days of US-Ukraine talks. The leaders of Britain, France and Germany want American support to help prevent any future Russian attacks on Ukraine.
Some things which we can't manage without America, things which we can't manage without Europe.
If there's to be a ceasefire, it needs to be a just and lasting ceasefire.
The four men discussing the two very different versions of a US-backed peace plan.
I'm skeptical about some of the details which we are seeing in the documents coming from the US side.
Also on the agenda, ongoing funding for Ukraine and how to use frozen Russian assets.
And I think we have a lot of cards in our hands.
The leader's words pushing back against US pressure on Zelensky to cede land and strike a deal with Moscow.
The Europeans will pay lip service that they're closing on a deal because they don't want to completely alienate Trump. But I think everybody knows the reality is you get Ukraine through the winter, and then you look at where Russia is, because Russia is in a lot of pain as well.
Zelensky flew on to Brussels Monday evening to meet with NATO and European Union leaders. He says he soon aims to present a revised version of the peace plan to the US. Donna?
Okay, Redmond. Shannon in London, thank you. Syrians were celebrating today. It's been 1 year since the fall of the Assad regime. In Damascus, there was a military parade and a huge gathering in the city's square, marking the country's new beginning after more than 50 years under former President Bashar al-Assad's authoritarian regime. The country is still dealing with outbreaks of sectarian violence, but Syria's leaders are promising a new phase of reconstruction and welcoming back many of the estimated 6.8 million people who fled during the 14-year war. It's estimated rebuilding the country's infrastructure will cost well over $200 billion. Showing Hollywood how Canadian Koreans get it done. Ahead, the Golden Globe nominations for K-pop Demon Hunters. The nominees are out for the Golden Globe Awards, celebrating the best in film and television in 2025. A number of Canadians are among them. Seth Rogen and Catherine O'Hara are nominated for their work on the Apple TV series The Studio. Martin Short is nominated for the latest season of Only Murders in the Building. And then there is Toronto animator Maggie Kang, co-director of Netflix's animated film and smash hit K-pop Demon Hunters. The movie turned into a global phenomenon and has 3 Golden Globe nominations. As Neetu Garcha reports, that alone is a big win for Canadian talent and Korean culture.
The world will know you as pop stars.
An original story about superstars secretly battling demons, K-pop Demon Hunters has been unavoidable this year.
Let's get battle ready.
The animated action comedy following K-pop idols who moonlight as demon slayers puts Canadian-Korean creator and co-director Maggie Kang in the spotlight with a Golden Globe nomination for Best Animated Feature. In a statement, Kang says she is beyond thrilled and incredibly humbled.
We're really proud that Maggie Kang went to Sheridan and studied in our classical animation program. High school students and even parents, it is K-pop Demon Hunters that they are referring to when they inquire about Sheridan's animation program.
The film will compete directly with Pixar's Elio.
If any aliens are listening, please come and get me. Okay, bye, I love you.
Co-directed by Domi Shi, a fellow Canadian and graduate of Sheridan College in Ontario. The popularity of K-pop Demon Hunters isn't just showing up on nomination lists. It's showing up in community spaces like this Vancouver K-pop dance studio, where choreography from the film has become a sensation.
It was the summer when I started teaching K-pop Demon Hunters, and I'm still teaching K-pop Demon Hunters.
The Korean-Canadian dance studio owner says she's watched her community change since the film's release.
I kind of wished I was a different ethnicity, but with everything going on right now, I'm super proud to be Korean, and people approach me and they want to be friends with me because I'm Korean.
Contents that really talk about the very niche, the local culture that really only like us, Korean immigrants or Korean people would appreciate, now becomes a global level.
He says interest in his K-pop classes has exploded. The film also picked up nominations for Best Original Song for its anthem Golden. As the award season builds, the film's impact is clear. Korean stories aren't just traveling further, they're becoming part of the global mainstream. Neetu Garcha, Global News, Vancouver.
Paramount Skydance is not giving up in its aggressive campaign to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery, launching a hostile bid to take over the studio. Paramount is offering $30 per share, making its total bid $108 billion US. Last week, Netflix announced it had reached a deal to buy Warner Brothers Discovery for nearly $83 billion. That Netflix bid was criticized by some US lawmakers concerned about media consolidation and higher prices for consumers. The owners of Paramount Skydance have close ties to the Trump administration. It argues it would provide significantly better value for shareholders and would be much likelier to survive regulatory scrutiny. Making spirits bright next, the Winnipeg Jets bring some holiday happiness to kids fighting battles off the ice. Just 17 days until Christmas, and while Santa still has a couple of weeks to prepare, some children in Winnipeg got a special visit today from some hometown heroes. Players from the Winnipeg Jets stopped by the Rehabilitation Centre for Children to spread some Christmas cheer. As Melissa Ridgen reports, the players say their annual visit feels like a gift for them, too.
When you're waiting for your hockey heroes to arrive, it's best to warm up. Winnipeg Jets stars made their annual trip to visit children at this Winnipeg Rehabilitation Centre, signing autographs, snapping photos, even taking shots on a Vezina Trophy winner.
Oh, he's scoring on me.
It'll be tough for Santa to top this, for the players too.
Seeing how much fun they're having with just a little bit makes me so joyful that I can be part of that. These visits, sometimes they're not long enough, but the quality is there. Just seeing the smiles on the kids and the joyful parents and everyone around it feels like Christmas.
These young hockey fans know all about fighting battles off the ice, sharing some of their hard-earned advice with the team.
Good luck, try your hardest, don't give up. That's it.
A gift of joy and inspiration everyone shares. Melissa Ridgen, Global News, Winnipeg.
And that is Global National for this Monday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is Nipawin, Saskatchewan. We would love to see your festive Canada photos. Please email them to globalnational@globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.